We're sure living in an exciting time, aren't we? Matter of fact, someone asked me, do you think you'll ever run out of material for the program? And I said, well, it seems like every day I not only get enough material for the program, but I get enough for 2 or 3 programs. And such is the situation during the last couple of weeks. Matter of fact, if you'll remember, we started the series on Upside Down. We're on part 4 right now, and we're probably going to do 2 or 3 more parts because I want to break it up into some topics. But really, have you ever seen a time when the world is more upside down? You see, I think during the pandemic we thought, well, maybe the world is going to turn right side up again, and it hasn't happened, and it won't happen. Because you see, there's something that's changing. And the whole idea that the world is going to go back to how it was pre-pandemic or to the 10 years ago is just not going to take place. There's no more normal. And remember, we've been using the verse in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. And again, I appreciate the feedback because some of you are saying, wow, we see how this is so true. Evil called good, good called evil, normal called abnormal, sweet called bitter, bitter called sweet. It's taking place. You see, everything is upside down. And that's exactly the environment the Bible talked about when we would see the tribulation come into play and the Antichrist gain his control over all the world's population. It's set up. Matter of fact, you want to know something? It's not just the general population that feels like things are topsy-turvy, but as well the leaders of the world. Never before have I seen leaders who would miss the G20 summit, but they are now. Never before have I seen leaders who would miss the United Nations General Assembly, the yearly meeting, but we do now. We watch Russia and China boycott them. Why? Because you see, they're trying to establish their own thing. They're trying to establish their own new policies. And so, for sure, the world is turned upside down. What was right is now wrong, and what was wrong is now right. Those are the changes that we're watching. I was thinking of another passage, because there's an incredible passage in the Bible, Matthew chapter 23. And as you read through it, it has a list of woes. There's 7 or 8 of these woes. And it's Jesus speaking. And woe is an interesting word. Woe is a word that if we're not careful, we don't even pronounce it right. You say, how can that be? It's only 3 letters. But you see, really the word woe is one that you can't say by just speaking, where you got to say it this way. Whoa! Yeah, it's like you're talking to a horse. Whoa! So that when you said whoa, everybody would turn and watch. It's like when you say wow or stop or some word like that. So the woe was a shout. And in these verses 23 through actually 25, you'll find that there's 7 or 8 of these woes. But look at one of them, particularly verse 25. It says this: woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortions and excess. He talks about the fact that there's a facade. There's something on the outside that looks good. It's like, he said, like taking the cemetery and whitewashing the outside, but inside there are decaying bones. It talks about having one set of rules for one people and a different set for another people. And he says, woe unto you. In other words, a judgment is going to come. And he was talking particularly to Israel and to Jerusalem. And he talked about, woe unto you. Because why? Because you act so pious and so religious, but you stone the prophets, you kill them. Woe unto you, because you say that you're doing good, you're dressed up like you're religious, and inside it's hypocrisy. The warning, a stern warning. It's a warning as well for the last day. And so the idea of the woe, because there's such hypocrites, I think it applies to today. The reason I say that is because in the world of upside down that we're living in, I want you to see some of the main players in it. I think you're going to be appalled. But before I even show you the first clip, I want you to know this. I am not discouraged. Matter of fact, do you want to know something? I'm encouraged. Number one, when this is taking place, I know that Jesus is coming soon. Number two, I know this, that the plan of God is the approval of God. You know what? We're winning. Yeah, we're winning. And we will win because Jesus won at Calvary. So I'm not giving you these things to panic you. I'm giving you these things so that you know what to expect. And I also to let you know that I think we're on the brink of Jesus coming. When we end this program, and probably even in our program tomorrow, I'm going to talk about 5 specific things that we can do. And so now let's begin to watch these things, because I'm sure that you recognize this man here, Bill Gates. How people have almost worshipped what he's done. And as an entrepreneur, he's incredible. Microsoft was quite a story, quite a ride. But isn't it amazing that what took him to the top now is almost bringing him to the bottom? And so here he is with his big wide smile, and I want you to see how come he's so happy at this particular moment. It's not because he has another great idea. It's not because he's doing something great for humanity. No, he has a little button, and that button's making him really, really happy. But let me tell you, it's part of the upside down world. Here we go.
We all need to support the global goals.
Yeah, turns out to be a commercial. You're going to see a lot of this, because on these goals, see the color wheel that he has there? Well, here they are. And you're going to see it referred to as SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, or sometimes even SGA, Single Global Economy, and Single Global League Agenda. It's referred to in a number of ways, but the idea of single, bringing everything into unity. And so, single global identity and agenda. What are these goals? Well, let's just take a look at them. For example, I'm not opposed to no poverty. I'm not opposed to the fact that we have zero hunger. But isn't it amazing that these are the very people that are ruining the food market? Isn't this amazing that these are the people that are putting farmers out of business? Why? Because they really are against meat. They're against dairy. They're against so many of the food products. And so it's almost amazing, because you know what? Since they began their agenda, we're not having less starvation and less people on the hunger list. We're having more. But you see, hypocrisy says no more poverty. No, the poverty of the world is on an all-time high. In spite of what they say, it's an all-time high. The idea of zero hunger, it's not happening. Matter of fact, since the last 5 years, a greater number of people are malnutrition. Even in our country, a greater number of people are malnutrition. We're watching fertilizers disappear. We're watching grain fields go. We're watching productive farming taken out of market. And so they've got the nerve to talk about this whole idea of no hunger. It's ridiculous. Or how about this? Good health and well-being. They want government control of it. I don't plan to take all 17 one by one, but I have to laugh at quality education. Yeah, quality education. I just saw the report, and perhaps you did too, that in Baltimore, Maryland, they just gave a standardized test. And out of 13 high schools, regular high schools, not one student was on grade level. Now, the education director, the so-called chairman of that particular thing in Baltimore, Maryland, makes nearly $500,000 a year. And she doesn't have one single student in the regular high schools that are performing at grade level in math. No wonder we're watching the United States continue to slip further and further behind. And you might say, well, the good students have all been sorted out. They're in the honors programs, they're in these gifted programs. Yeah, so they did a survey on that. 11%, only 11% of the students are up to grade level in the honors programs and in the so-called gifted school programs. 11% pass the benchmark. Who are we kidding? They're not for quality education. They're for control. 5, believe me, they're going to spend a lot of time on gender equality, aren't they? That's one of their key messages. And then you go down a little bit further and you're going to see, Number 7, affordable and clean energy. Or number 13, that's their doctrine, climate action. And so these people are uniting under this thing and saying, yeah, you know what, we're trying to bring it in. And guess what year they're aiming for? 2030. Have you heard that year before? Everything seems to be focusing on 2030. And again, it's the 2030 year, 7 years from now, they want to achieve this. They want to have a single global agenda that will have sustainable development goals. And they got their little color wheel up there. My friend, let me tell you that this is a hoax. It's hypocrisy. Let me tell you why it's hypocrisy, because Bill Gates does not care if you starve. Bill Gates is not trying to be more efficient in producing food on the planet. No, what he wants you to do is say, eat no more meat. We'll print our meat using printers. We have a whole bunch of cities, 14 in the United States, who have agreed that by the year 2030, they will not have meat or dairy, and they won't even have single ownership cars. This is ridiculous. You see, it's upside down. But let me just go a step further, because you see, these same people, here is Macron, and here is King Charles. Now, isn't it amazing that they boycotted the United Nations Assembly? And yeah, the United Nations Assembly devoted a key amount of time to the climate situation. Matter of fact, Mr. Biden, of all the problems in the world, all the problems in the United States, such as the border mess, such as drugs being brought in a record number, such as increasing number of homeless people, such as New York City complaining about spending $1 billion on border crossings that are bringing them up to New York. He spoke about climate. This is ridiculous. The countries that should be talking about climate are India and China, and the countries that don't need to talk about climate are making this their hallmark. Well, I know what they got in mind. And so here's King Charles, big climate guy, and here's Macron. I don't know if he's a big climate guy or not. He appears to be. And so guess what? They couldn't take time to meet at the United Nations, so they met at the palace in Versailles. There you go. These are people that are concerned about climate. Look at the setting. This is a royal palace, let me tell you. The amount of gold, the amount of crystal. Do you think that that's a zero carbon celebration? Do you think that is a meat where they're eating beetles and seaweed? This is crazy. Let's just take a look at a video clip of it and you'll see how extravagant it really is. Well, it goes on. Now, can you imagine them saying we're upset because people aren't doing a zero carbon footprint? I can assure you that these people didn't walk to the palace in Versailles. And I can assure you that they ate real food, not generated on a computer printer. I can assure you that these people, dressed as they were, did not have a zero carbon footprint. You see, in the new 2030 goals that 14 cities have agreed to, they've also agreed to the fact that you only get, not only you have no individual cars, but you get one new change of clothes a year. This is ridiculous. Look at these people. You see, it's exactly the case of Matthew 23. Woe unto you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites. You've got plenty of rules for everybody else. At the same time, you're living a different standard. You say one thing and you live another. King Charles, you're no climate celebrant. No, you you live like this and you tell us what we're supposed to eat? You live like this and have these kind of parties and you tell us that we're not supposed to eat dairy in 7 years or have meat? It's totally crazy. The world's upside down. You see, they're taking control of this. Let me tell you this, it's not only because these men have evil in their heart and in their mind. They want to get richer. They want the poor to be poorer. It's always amazing that even when the New Age lady said, hey, a fourth of you need to go. She says, we're God's special agent, referring to Revelation chapter 6, verse 7, where a fourth of the people die on planet Earth. She says, we're God's special agent. Notice that they volunteer for a fourth of the world to die, but they're not part of that. It's upside down, my friend. It's completely upside down. And so while all this is going on, while no one was watching the leaders at the UN, a 7-year agreement was made to bring about this single global agenda. And this is when they announced their big plan, thinking that they would just slide that into the picture. Let me tell you, they got caught red-handed. And so you talk about the end of an American dream. There was a day when Americans dreamed that every generation would be better off. This should be the highlight of our living. We should have the best homes, we should have the best cars, we should have the best health care, we should have the best education. We should be living in a wonderful way so that we can spend our time pursuing our families, pursuing our hobbies, pursuing our careers, pursuing God. But instead, you know what? The world's turned upside down and it's fallen apart. And at the same time, they're pushing this agenda. Let me tell you, there's another aspect that shows the coming of Christ, because it's interesting, because after the UN talk by Netanyahu, here's some things that came up. The new Middle East. Matter of fact, once some of the Arab countries found out that the Saudis were ready to make peace with Israel and to try to be the broker of the peace and to be the security factor on the Temple Mount, it's amazing that now 6 or 7 other Muslim nations say, hey, we want to be part of this peace with Israel. Now where did all this come from? You see, just a couple months ago, we watched as Russia and Iran bullied their way and said, hey, we're not about to do it. We want to kick Israel out altogether. And even Jordan was taking a hard-nosed stand. Why? Because they thought it was popular. They thought that Russia and Iran were going to win this whole debate. And then all of a sudden, Saudi turns up with so much money they don't know what to do with it all. And so they offer $100 billion to be the caretakers of the Temple Mount. Why? Because if they have the Temple Mount, they now will have control of Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holy site to Islam. They already have Medina. They already have Mecca. They would have all 3 of the holy sites. They want control. They, along with 4 other countries, say, we want control. And now, all of a sudden, when Saudi is proposing a fast-speed train from Saudi Arabia into Israel, right to the Temple Mount, isn't it amazing that now all the Arab countries say, hey, we want to do so? They're hypocrites. Let me tell you that. And here's poor Jordan. Notice what he says. Jordan says, how do you parachute over Palestine to make peace with Israel? You see, he stalled for so long and he made so many incredible demands that he found himself now kicked off of the Temple Mount, new guardians, and now even this 2-state solution that he's hoping so much to get, it's gone. And so Jordan has become I'm going to say an also-run factor. It's interesting because remember what we said about the last days? Right will be wrong, wrong will be right. The focus will be on peace in the Middle East, particularly the Temple Mount. We're watching those things take place just as we're talking. But there's another story, and I would be amiss if I didn't talk to you about it, because when it comes to evil being good and good being evil, I can't believe the story that came out just in the last week. Unbelievable, 3 days ago. The Ukrainian president, Zelensky, has appointed the performance artist Marina Abramovic. I probably don't pronounce her last name right. I don't care to pronounce it right. I've called her Aberwich. She's an ambassador for rebuilding the schools in the Ukraine. Now think about this. You talk about something being turned upside down. Here it is. This lady has been employed to be the ambassador for education in the Ukraine. Why are we spending billions of dollars in the Ukraine when we have problems enough at home? And when we know that Zelensky is getting rich from this, and we know that really Zelensky is doing everything he can to prolong the war because it's making him and his generals wealthy. And this appointment is unbelievable. Well, you see her there with a goat's head. Her resume is unbelievable. It's a long resume. It goes all the way back to the late 1990s. She's a friend of most Hollywood celebrities. But how she's a friend of them is disgusting. She's actively involved in Satan worship. She admits it. She does one hideous deed after another, after another, after another. Can you imagine employing her as an ambassador for children? Marina Abramovich. Yeah, you deserve your name pronounced that way because you know what? She says that she is a witch. I'm not putting words on her mouth. She claims that she's a witch. I want to show you just a little video clip and you'll see why I'm so disgusted with her and so disgusted that the world is swallowing this. My friend, sooner or later, we've got to object and say that person isn't fit to be around any child, let alone to be an ambassador for any country in school and education reform.
Satanic ritual, which Podesta was expected to attend, as you shall see, if done according to Satanist Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law, which Abramovich appears to be largely following, involves child sacrifice. Most everyone missed the child sacrifice connection with spirit cooking. We know that Abramovich was using much of Crowley's spirit cooking recipe for devil worshippers because she documented this for us in a video where you can see her writing down many of the ingredients for spirit cooking. Gaga has spent much time praising the satanic spirit cooker Abramovich, even claiming her influence on her life.
Marina, I think you are so wonderful, so beautiful and inspiring, and as a woman, I want to translate what her work means into my own life on a domestic level. I am obsessed with this woman. She is so incredible.
The satanic spirit cooking ritual is better known as the Cake of Light ritual among Crowleyan Satanists, and is like a blasphemous satanic sacrament practiced by Crowley's OTO members that mocks Jesus' Last Supper of partaking of unleavened bread in remembrance of Jesus' love and death for the sins of the world to deliver them from hell. As you can see, she also uses Crowleyan symbols like the triangle and the number of the Antichrist, 666. All of this is quite revealing as to what many of these people in the higher echelons of politics and the entertainment world are all about.
You can clearly see that Marina has connections in high places. In 2020, she was even the face of a Microsoft commercial, which they made for art. Out of all the artists they could have used, they decided to use the one that performs open satanic rituals. This didn't sit well with the people who knew what Marina was known for. Quickly receiving backlash, they eventually took the ad down. What I also found extremely interesting is that Marina is 74 years old, but doesn't look older than 40. How does this woman look so young? Well, maybe it has something to do with the blood rituals she has performed. Just like Queen Elizabeth, who used to drink blood and bathe in virgin blood to keep herself from aging. I believe this is exactly what many celebrities are doing today. Like I pointed out in my Kardashian video, Kim Kardashian also participates in vampire facials to keep herself from aging. I do not find this coincidental at all that these women participate in the same sick demonic blood rituals to stay young. All of this has been written by the demonic prophet Aleister Crowley. Marina is just continuing Crowley's work. To no surprise, Jay-Z has been linked to Marina as well. Jay-Z is another known Satanist and was invited to perform for one of Marina's art shows. And to me it looks like Jay-Z was there to honor Marina, almost as if he's worshipping her. Like I said before, Jay-Z also worshipped Crowley, so to me it makes perfect sense that Jay-Z would be honored to be around Marina. Marina would often do her art performances with skulls involved, and to the Freemasons the skull is a symbol of mortality, often standing as a representation of their eventual death. Masons often have skeletons with arms crossed in their private chambers. In one of Marina's art performances, she brushes old skeletons clean for an audience to watch, as she is covered in the dirt of the skeleton.
Well, you know what? It could go on. And we've edited out many parts because of the nudity. Think about this. Child sacrifice, anti-aging because you're drinking blood, satanic rituals, taking a blood bath, mixing babies' parts and making it part of dinner, hobnobbing with the elite because they're also criminalistic. It's disgusting, isn't it? Woe to you scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites. My friend, that's not entertainment. That's evil. That's satanic. And so, how can it get more evil? Well, you want to know something? Until Jesus comes, it's going to continue to get more evil. And we got to be prepared for that. And that's really why I show that clip. Even though it's highly edited, you can go and you can find additional clips, and it goes on for 10, 15, 20 minutes. There's no end to her disgusting practices. So here's really the question: what can we do? Because our time is almost gone today, I have 5 things that I want to give you that we can do. But I'm only going to give you 2 of them today. One of them is we can object. It's high time we stop being silent. It's high time we begin to say, you know what? That's satanic. That's anti-God. If we continue to do that, no wonder God is going to remove his hand of protection. You see, the reason why we have been protected up to this point is because there have been people who have been praying for our country, been praying that the grace of God would sustain us. But I'm going to tell you this, myself and others who are praying that God would not punish us, I can't pray that any longer. How can it get more evil? I don't know that it can get any more perverted than it is. But I know this, that as long as God leaves me here, I'm going to pray that somehow or another I can direct people to see Jesus. I still think there are people here, individual people here, that when they see this, they're going to be so disgusted, they're going to say, you know what, that's wrong. I know that's wrong. Woe unto you, Pharisees, scribes, hypocrite. And they're going to turn to Jesus. They're looking for something, and we need to show them Jesus. That's the only hope they've got. I think there's another thing that I want you to be aware of, and that's what it says in James. James chapter 5, verse 7. I want to read it to you because I want to make sure that I say it exactly right. It says this: "Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, and has long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain. Be you also patient, establish your hearts." What a key word. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draws near. And so it says this, to be patient. In other words, it goes on to say we're going to endure suffering. Yeah, we're going to endure being made fun of. We're probably going to endure persecution. But he said, be patient. Why? Because the coming of the Lord draws near. You see, as we get nearer and nearer to the return of Christ, I think it's going to be clearer and clearer. There's 2 sides. There's a side for God. There's a side for Satan. It's not just good and evil. It's the devil himself. It's satanically inspired. That woman is satanically inspired. And I'm going to be God-inspired. And I'm going to try to win anyone I can that's on the fence, that's willing to say that's horrible. I want them to see that, you know what, we're on the brink of Jesus coming. Are you ready? Because I really believe that any minute Christ could come. I think...